Welcome back to Keeping Hope Alive. I'm Jo Comer-Ford, and this episode features Deb Habib from Seeds of Solidarity, and you're going to see the beautiful fields and farm.
My name is Deb Habib, and you're at Seeds of Solidarity Farm and Education Center. So this is a kind of two-part entity. We have a family farm, and we also run a nonprofit organization through which we run a number of programs. And at the sort of the core and spirit of our work is basically trying to build healthy soil in a region where good food is really needed and teach other people how to do that. So we grow a lot of beautiful food. We're standing in front of the farm stand right now. We try and keep it affordable. And then we have a range of educational programs that we've done over the last 3 decades here, really, both for teenagers from the region, I've put in like over 50 gardens at schools and family child care centers, and we run a whole series of public programs and workshops, just trying to really bring people together and cultivate hope as we all learn to grow some skills as well. And then there's also the involvement in the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival, which I can tell you more about. We've been here in Orange for about almost 30 years. But this has been our sort of life and career path for the duration. Here you are in one of 5 greenhouses at Seeds of Solidarity, and actually the agricultural name is a hoop house because it only uses the heat from the sun to extend the growing season in either direction. So this is like one of the hoop houses for hot crops. Here you've got lots of tomatoes growing and lots of different varieties. And my husband Ricky, who's the farmer, he uses sort of the opportunity to kind of journal also on the different tomato signs. So whatever he's kind of thinking about, and there's a lot to think about right now that isn't necessarily hopeful, he kind of expresses that. But for example, like imagine, all this money spent on war, spent on renewables. So that's actually, I think, in some ways kind of at the core of what we're doing. Like how do we model for others? How do we work in a community-based way? Feeling like our community is the sphere of influence for us, where we can have some impact, without pushing people, knocking people over the head with like our, ideology, but just kind of offering a space and offering practices, both in terms of growing food and educating, but also how to attempt to live a more balanced life amidst it all, and sharing that with others. So I think that's really at the core of what we do, that we need to constantly be creating kind of the world that we want to live in, and not rely on sort of the powers that may be more focused on power and greed and corporate control to create the vision for us. So that's a lot of what we do, and why we do it is really showing people that it is possible to live in more harmonious ways with each other and with nature. And the skills that we have, the things that we're drawn to, have to do with growing food. But other people do that through art or through music or their own, ways of being involved in change making or growing unions or whatever it is. But that's what we do here. Oh, I love that question. That's a great question, because we have to love what we do. And I think for me, love also relates to passion. We actually wrote a book called Making Love While Farming, a field guide to a life of passion and purpose. And that's love really in the biggest sense of the word. But it is also how to maintain like a relationship and have a family and build community while we're doing work that can be very intensive. So I think what I love most about what we do, just an example, last week was the big garlic harvest. And we invite friends and neighbors to come and help. And we create a circle. And I make a lot of food like the night before. And so while we're working, people are kind of cleaning garlic and in conversation together, and the conversations flow all over. And that, again, that's like kind of how people have worked together throughout history, especially agriculturally, be it threshing grain or weaving baskets or what have you. So I think I really love the most when there's sort of a joyful coming together and people sharing in it and using like a medium like that to tell stories. But I think also definitely the educational work, so like 2 days ago for me personally, because I'm more doing the education programs than the day-to-day on the farm. But, 2 days ago we hosted a wonderful group of young people from Springfield from a program called the Performance Project. They just were using the opportunity to get out of the city and experience something else. And just, I said, well, why doesn't everybody harvest a flower to take home, to take back? And just like those simple acts. Yesterday I was at a camp at a local farm, a dairy farm, where a woman who runs the dairy farm is trying to figure out how to make a living and have her 3 kids cared for while she's like milking. So she created a camp, a farm and forest camp, and I sang a song with the kids, and then we planted cucumbers in garden bags that they were going to take home. And again, just like that, some of those simple acts of watching them, I offered them, like, do you want to use a yogurt container to scoop compost? And they're like, no, I'll use my hands, right? And so like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds choosing to put their hands in the soil, just like those simple moments, I think, are so gratifying. Sometimes it's the small things, there's the big picture of how do we feed our community, which is a big thing for us. But then there's also the smaller acts. Yeah, so you might notice as we're walking through Seeds of Solidarity Farm that there's a lot of signs in front of the gardens and the greenhouses from, Vandana Shiva to Alice Walker to Che Guevara to Cesar Chavez. And if people don't know who these people are, you should definitely learn about them. And I think for us, a lot of what that's about is really honoring those who have gone before us, not only, as people working with the land, but also as social justice leaders. And, farming's hot. Running a nonprofit is hard. So throughout the day, if we kind of see these signs, it's like they kept going. They carried courage for a lot of people. And so not like we'll ever be like any of these people, but just to kind of be reminded that throughout time, it's the people in the communities, in the streets, leading the movements of the people that have really carried the courage and the strength and the vision and the wisdom. So it's both educational to kind of make sure people know, like, who is Dolores Huerta, who are all these people. But it's also for us to kind of maintain that strength through the day. My husband Ricky and I are not born and raised in the North Quabbins, so we very much came here as outsiders, as guests to a community, and really needed and wanted to figure out how not just to come in with like, we have all these ideas and like, you people don't understand anything, it's like, so we really wanted to come here with, where are we? What is this land? Like, what's the history? Who are the organizations, the grassroots organizations already doing the work? So it was very important to us to kind of move slowly. Some people, this is not my original phrase, but moving at the speed of trust is a very important, I think, phrase that we've also held. And also not trying to like create something massive that we couldn't take care of, that we couldn't actually do. So I think our vision in terms of the community has been from the start, since we came here almost 30 years ago, is to kind of just connect in a very reciprocal way with the people that were already doing the work, and connect with people who, had a lot of skills and knowledge to offer that weren't being seen, because it is a marginalized, low-wealth community that often is disparaged by the larger press in Boston or what have you. So I think our vision, I'd love to see more meaningful jobs to people. I'd love to see everybody fed well. One of our key partners is Quabbin Harvest, which is a food co-op right in the center of Orange, that was founded over 12 years ago with the primary goal of getting fresh, affordable food to people. And, like every Tuesday, there are shares that are packaged through the Healthy Incentives Program that we sell our produce to at a wholesale rate to go out to people in the community who use SNAP benefits, and 70 elders as well who get food. So I think the vision forward is it's very hard, but continuing to hope that some of the boarded up buildings, some of the mill buildings continue to be sort of held for their history, but also renovated and updated in ways that allow for locally owned, more locally owned businesses, more meaningful jobs, and that people get the support they need. Nutrition is so key, starting from early on. And not only nutrition, but hope and love, is so key. So, for all the children rising and the young people rising, to make sure that somehow they know that they can be supported in whatever vision they feel is theirs forward. So if people are interested in Seeds of Solidarity in Orange, checking out our website's great because we list all of our programs there, and we have a number of different visiting days and workshops throughout the season. There's also a way to join the mailing list, either email. I only get to like one a month, so I won't flood it, or snail mail. But also coming up, and an annual event that we put on with our neighbors and community, is the North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival. And that is a great way to get involved because we always need volunteers, and people can go to garlicandarts.org, learn more about the festival, just come. But if you want to volunteer, there's a volunteer form on the website, and people can sign up to volunteer, which is really a necessary part of the festival that weekend. But yeah, definitely come to North Quabbin Garlic and Arts Festival. It's a wonderful event where you can support local farmers and artists, and 3 stages of performance and spoken word and music, lots of activities for kids, great food, great community event.